So 20 minutes ago, I started listening to some music with the intention of trying to pick up on just the smaller details of the music, giving it my full attention and trying to let thoughts go past without decreasing the quality of the experience. Because what I found is that actually most of the time when I'm on autopilot, I have thoughts that are taking me out of the moment. Thoughts that seem to be decreasing the quality of everyday life, reducing it down. And I was like, damn, what a shame. And it made me think that, well, life has a lot of depth to it. A lot of depth that we forget about. And if your mind is doing similar things, then you can probably attest to that as well. What this means for us is that we go through life thinking that we need to be doing more and more and more and more stuff, as opposed to doing less stuff and making more out of the smaller things that we do. And so if we live life from a place that is managing to pay really close attention and experience the depth of the everyday events that life has to give us, then we won't feel the need to do more. Because it's super easy to feel insatiable, failing to be satisfied, if we are living life, experiencing it in a shallow way. And so, as I just hinted before, our minds are the things that make life shallow. Because what does the mind do? Well, based on what we're experiencing and ways that we have thought previously, it will package things up in ways that often reduce them down. Now, I had to really pay attention to this. So when I was listening to the music, I had to really see what was happening. Because it's difficult to articulate, you know? It's not always abundantly clear how the mind is reducing it down. But what I was seeing in myself was that my thoughts were something like taking the sum of my experience in life, and because there's a lot of things that I might not be happy with, that would factor into this reaction to the immediate moment that would, in a sense, reduce it down or invalidate it or take away its quality. If this doesn't make full sense to you right now, then that's understandable. But this is just the way I was seeing my mind reducing things down. It's like, if I didn't perceive my life to be going well, then listening to music or doing all these things, which I could be experiencing so much depth in, was so much harder, because the automatic reaction is to, well, be pulled under by that thought, or to let it affect you in a way that will, as I said before, invalidate whatever you're experiencing or not allow you to experience the depth in it. So with that and the understanding of what was going on, I kept listening to this music, and it was for about 15 minutes, I think. And I just let that stuff go past, and let it go past, and let it go past. And in order to bring that quality back of the moment, I just integrated my thoughts into the experience, knowing them closely and seeing them for what they are, allowed me to, as I said, integrate them. And they became less of a problem, and that depth was easier to experience. But it's not easy, and it requires a level of awareness that is built up over time as a skill. I talk about it a lot on this channel, because awareness just seems to be a centerpiece for flourishing in quality of life stuff. You hear about mindfulness a lot. You know, it's a bit of a buzzword. And if we define mindfulness, it's our ability to closely relate to the experience of what's happening whatever it may be, in ways which we don't jeopardize from a mental standpoint. Or if we do, we are at least aware of the fact that we did it. So it's about removing the barriers that stand between us and our experience. Because in everyday life, there is so much that removes us from our immediate experience, and experiencing that depth that I was talking about, that we just fail to enjoy life as much as we could. I talk about it a lot in a sense like it's a definition that we're losing. When we're experiencing life with depth, there's so much definition, there's so much to take in. Everyday stuff, whether that's sight, whether that's sound, touch. It's like we are so used to all that stuff that it goes into the subconscious mind as habit, and we're just carrying out a routine on autopilot. A lot more than we think we are. Like, I thought I was quite on it with this awareness stuff and making the most of my day or whatever, mindfully. But I'm still a lot of the time just in these routines which don't account for the depth that those routines bring. And then I wonder why I want to go and travel more or fill that void. But you can imagine, even if I did go and travel more or just do anything, as long as I'm not living from a place that accounts for that depth, then it's going to be more of the same. I'm going to stay insatiable. Whereas if, for example, I went for a trip around, or just went for a day trip in my city, and just lived from that place of really close attention, whilst letting all of those thoughts of trying to take me out of the moment and put it in a box and categorize it, let them be, get some distance from them, things that are difficult to do in everyday life. This is stuff that you develop within a meditative space usually, because it takes a lot of focus, a lot of real conscious awareness to be able to do that. And so if I went around my city and I was paying super close attention to all the things that I'm experiencing, then that could, in a sense, be a lot more enjoyable than traveling the world with the sense of not being able to account for the depth of my experience. It's a funny thought. And so I think it's just such an important practice for us to get more out of what we already have. It's kind of like gratitude, but it's like practical gratitude. Because we can be as grateful as we want in our heads, but sometimes if you're not experiencing what you have in a way that feels close and feels like you can really experience what's happening, then it can be difficult to be grateful for it. We want our gratitude to be authentic, and I think it's so much easier to do that from a place where we're getting the most out of what we already have. So this is, I think, a shorter video, and what's the point? What's the point of this video? I think the conclusion is that there's just so much hidden in everyday life that we don't get to experience. Like, when I was listening to music, I was hearing things that I never usually hear. Details that I was like, wow, oh, that was there. And it made just for this different experience. And so we want to try and live from that place more, if we can. Take time out of our day to choose something to practice that very close awareness with, and then bring that into our routine so we don't have to think about it. We're doing it more, and then life feels more abundant, and we didn't have to change anything. We didn't have to go anywhere. We didn't have to buy any new stuff. And so there's plenty of meditations out there which I think can help you do this, but it's a skill that we build up over time to be able to pull ourselves out of the mind, because again, that is a kind of requirement. All of this relies on this ability to be the observer of the mind, see yourself as separate in a way, see that these thoughts are just coming automatically. It's not something that you're doing, which is a strange concept for some people, but becomes made a lot more solid when you start to meditate. You really see it. And the result is that we just get to live more, I suppose, with a lot more depth. And with that, I really appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.